Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4. We are going to be reading from chapter 29. Narad explains his allegory. Narad concludes his instructions to King Prachin Barhi, who then retires to practice spiritual life. Prachin Barhi sat in stunned silence for some moments. He was in a terrible predicament. Jara and Chandveg would soon be calling. What should he do? Certainly he was still attached to material enjoyment. The key was in Narad's allegory, but it must have eluded him. Verse 1, he folded his palms and said, My lord, I could not completely appreciate the meaning of your story. Those perfect in spiritual knowledge can surely understand, but I am addicted to materialistic activities and found it difficult to fathom. Narad said, Let me explain. The name Puranjan means one who enjoys possessing all types of bodies. According to his karmic destiny, he will sometimes have ghostly body, which is said to be one-legged. Other times he will have two-legged human body, or when he is old and using a walking stick, he is said to have 3 legs. He will also get other types of bodies with 4 legs or with many legs like insects or an octopus. Sometimes he will get a serpent's body with no legs. The unknown friend Avijnata, this is verses 3 to 5 now, is the super soul. So the unknown friend Avijnata is the super soul, the living being's master and eternal friend. Since he cannot be perceived by the material senses or mind, he remains unknown to the conditioned soul. When the deluded soul wants to enjoy material pleasures fully out of the many types of bodies, he prefers that which has 9 gates. This is either the human or celestial body, which have 9 apertures, 2 arms and 2 legs. The young woman whom Puranjan accepts as his queen represents contaminated intelligence, or in other words, ignorance. Under its influence, one misidentifies with the material body, thinking, this is I and this is mine. Due to this material consciousness, one enjoys and suffers through his senses and becomes entrapped by the karmic consequences. Verse 6, the queen's male friends are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the 5 active senses. Her girlfriends are the actions of the senses. The 5-headed serpent guarding her is prana, the life force. Why is prana described in that way? Narad said, the soul is merged into the life air or prana which moves in the body like a serpent. Prana has 5 types of circulation: prana, apan, udan, vyan and saman. For this reason, it is described as a 5-headed serpent. Prachin Bari said, I have heard previously that there are 10 types of life air. Yes, replied Narad. The 5 I mentioned are the principal life airs. The others are secondary and therefore I have not mentioned them. Verses 7 to 8, let me continue with my explanation. The 11th attendant, who is the commander of the others, is the mind, which directs the knowledge acquiring active senses. The kingdom of Panchal is the field of enjoyment, or in other words, the 5 types of enjoyable sense objects, within which is the city of 9 gates, the eyes, ears, nostrils, mouth, genitals and rectum. Through those gates, the living being engages with the sense objects like form and taste. Verses 9 to 10. The eyes, nostrils and mouth are the eastern gates situated in the front. The right and left ears are the southern and northern gates respectively. The genitals and rectum are the western gates. I have already explained some of this, but let us go through it again. The gates Khadayota and Avirmukhi are the 2 eyes, while the town Vibhrajit is forms which the eyes see. Verse 11, the 2 doors Nalini and Nalini are the nostrils, and the city of Saurabh is aroma. Puranjan's companion for visiting Saurabh is Avdhut, which means most free and refers to the sense of smell. Since it depends on air which can move without restriction, the gate called Mukhya is the mouth, and Puranjan's companions for venturing forth through this gate are Vipanna the voice, and Rasajana the taste of sense of taste. Verses 12 to 13, accompanied by Vipan, Puranjan goes to the city known as Apan. Speech, accompanied by Rasajana, he goes to the city known as Bahudan. Varieties of food, the Pitrihu gate is the right ear and Devahu the left. The cities of Dakshin Panchal and Uttar Panchal, which Puranjan visited through these gates, are the scriptures encouraging material enjoyment and liberation, respectively. Through hearing, one can achieve either of these goals. Verse 14, the city of Gramaka is meant for sexual pleasure, which is attractive to foolish, low-class men. It is reached via the lower gate called Asuri, the genitals. Puranjan's travelling companion when he goes through this gate is Durmada, which literally means wrongly directed, which refers to infatuation. Prachin Bhari said, "You say that infatuation is misdirected. I admit that I am enamored for my queen. Is that condemned, or are you referring to adulterous feelings? Our love is meant for Krishna, my dear king, but because you have forgotten him, your love is misdirected to your queen. Still you are frustrated, are you not? Neither you nor your queen are happy. Why? Because you have misplaced your love. It is like trying to nourish a plant by watering the leaves and branches. The plant will die. For it to thrive, you must water the root. Similarly, for you and your dependents to be happy, you must direct your love to Krishna." Prachin Barhi dropped his gaze. It was true. Though he loved his wife and she loved him, they experienced frustration in their relationship. She spent so much time in the sulking rooms. He too was dissatisfied. Why else was he performing so many sacrifices in hope of a better future? Narad said, "Please listen as I continue to explain the allegory. The literal meaning of niritti is destruction, and it refers to the rectum. When a sinful soul dies, he exits the body painfully via the rectum." Verse 15, passing through the rectum, the living being goes to Vaishas accompanied by Lubdhaka. Vaishas has a dual meaning, excretion and a place of slaughter, or in other words, hell. Lubdhaka means greed or gluttony. If one eats too much, his stool will be painful, and if one eats flesh, then he will go to hell. I also mentioned two blind associates. These are the hands and legs by which the living being moves and works. Verses 16 to 17. I refer to the Antapura, meaning inner chamber. This indicates the heart. Puranjan would go there with his chief servant Vishuchina, which literally means going everywhere, and which refers to the mind. The mind will sometimes dwell on enjoyment in the mode of ignorance, sometimes in passion, and at other times in goodness, depending on where the mind dwells. The living entity will feel either bewildered, excited, or content. As I have already explained, the queen is polluted intelligence, which is active both when we are awake and asleep. Whatever it decides on, the living entity does. That is why whatever the queen did, Puranjan imitated. Verses 18 to 20, the chariot I described is the body, whose horses are the senses. As time passes year after year, the horses rush forward unobstructed but actually make no progress. The chariot's wheels are pious and impious acts, and its flags are the three modes of nature. The five connecting rods are the five life fares. Mind is the bridle, intelligence the driver, and heart is the seat. The two poles fixed to the yoke are happiness and distress. The five weapons are the sense objects, and the chariot's coverings are the seven elements of the body: skin, muscle, fat, blood, marrow, bone, and semen. The chariot's 5 ways of moving are the working senses. The 11 commanders are the 11 senses, headed by the mind. Engrossed in sensual pleasure, the living being sits upon the chariot and pursues material enjoyment, life after life, striving to satisfy endless desires. This is what was meant by Puranjan's hunting expedition. Prachin Bari said, "This is How is it that by hard work we do not progress? I perform sacrifices for elevation to the heavenly planets. Are they useless? If so, then the Vedas have deceived us, and if they are effective, then I will make progress. Narad smiled. An intelligent doubt, my dear king. The Vedas are not lying. These sacrifices, when correctly done, will promote you to the heavens. However, this is not advancement. Real progress is getting out of the material world altogether, from the highest planet down to the lowest. All are places of misery where you will be subjected to birth and death. You are killing so many animals to go to the heavenly planets, but even there you will not be happy. Now let's continue. Verses 21 to 25. I mentioned a king named Chandaveg who attacked Puranjan city and 360 Gandharvas and their wives. Chandaveg was powerful time. The Gandharvas and their wives are the days and nights in a year. The point is that the body's lifespan is gradually reduced by passing of each day and night. As I explained, Kalakanya means the daughter of time, Jara or old age. No one wants to become old. The king of the Yavanas is fearful death, who accepts Jara as his sister. Death's soldiers are the different types of physical diseases and mental anxieties. Prajwar or fever manifests either as extreme heat, as in the case of typhoid, and extreme cold, as in pneumonia. While living in the material body, the living entity is subjected to many disturbances, some due to natural disasters controlled by gods, others inflicted by other living beings, and yet others arising from his own body and mind. Despite all these problems, he continuously makes plans to enjoy. Although transcendental to matter, out of ignorance he accepts all kinds of misery, absorbed in the false ego of me and mine. Thus he passes 100 years in his body. Prachin Bari threw up his hands. This is such a morbid view of life. You are saying it's all bad, that there is no happiness. Verses 26 to 27, Narad shook his head. The purpose of the allegory is to show that life is hopeless, but to emphasize the need for making the right choices. You can choose whether to become fortunate or suffer. If you ignore Krishna, then you choose to come under the control of nature's modes, identify with your body, and become attached to material enjoyment. Sometimes you will be influenced by goodness, sometimes passion, and sometimes ignorance. As long as you remain under the control of these modes, you will continue in material life. Verses 28 to 29. Influenced by goodness, you will act piously according to Vedic injunctions and be elevated to heaven. Influenced by passion, you will busy yourself making money and take rebirth in the human society. Influenced by ignorance, you will be descending into the lower species and suffer terribly. In reality, you have nothing to do with the material body. You are a brilliant spiritual particle of Krishna, covered by the cloud of Maya or ignorance. You identify with matter, sometimes getting a male body, sometimes female, and sometimes a mixture of both. Sometimes you will have a celestial body, and at other times a bird's or beast's. It depends how you act under the influence of material nature. Narad looked directly into Prachin Bari's eyes. Verses 30 to 31, you should consider how your position is no better than that of a dog who goes from door to door seeking food. Sometimes the dog is fed and sometimes he is kicked away. Similarly, you, the soul, are going from one material body to another, seeking pleasure. In some bodies you enjoy worldly happiness, while in other births you are kicked. Meditate on this and it will help you become sober. Prachin Bari sat wide-eyed for several moments. Narad's words were powerful and could not be ignored. He said, I accept that one's fortune in this material world is unpredictable. However, surely it is responsible to work for a better situation. Verses 32 to 33, certainly, said Narad, we should act to stop suffering and increase our happiness, dear king. But we must know how this is achieved. Conditioned souls struggle to change their situation in order to avoid suffering. but that will not work. It will simply come from somewhere else, like a man bearing a heavy weight who moves it from one shoulder to the other. The burden remains. Any material act only results in continued bondage and misery. As long as you are in material consciousness, you will suffer. Prachin Bari grimaced, "You make everything seem dark and hopeless. Surely the cause of suffering is sin, which can be counteracted by performing sacrifices." Verse 34, Narad smiled, "I'm not suggesting happiness is unachievable, but you have to know the right way. First, you must realize that the negative effects of one kind of selfish work cannot be counteracted by another. Whenever we try to satisfy ourselves instead of Krishna, we are influenced by ignorance. When a man is sleeping and suffering a bad dream, the only solution is to wake up. Similarly, forgetting our eternal relationship with Krishna, we enter a dreamlike state in which we identify with the matter. Unless we awaken to our real identity in relation to Krishna, we cannot escape the nightmare of material life. Therefore, reviving that relationship must be our main endeavor. Prachin Bari said, "A sleeping man experiencing a nightmare is not actually in danger. If that is our situation, there is no need for us to find a solution, since we are not really suffering." Verse 35, "It may not be real, but the feelings of pain are real," replied Narad. "For example, when we dream we are being attacked by a tiger, we are not actually in danger, but the experience of misery is real. Similarly, until the soul wakes up from his dream-like condition, he will continue to suffer. So how can I wake up and realize my relationship with Krishna?" Verses 36 to 37, "Yes, this is only the question one must ask," said Narad. "Forgetting that relationship is the root cause of material bondage. Your real interest is to get free of this ignorance. This means you must surrender to Krishna's representative, the bona fide spiritual master. Under his guidance, you should execute the process of sadhana bhakti, beginning with hearing and chanting about the Lord. This will give rise to transcendental knowledge and detachment from the world. There is no other way to get free of material bondage and properly understand Krishna." The king listened intently. "How wonderful if he could actually become free of material entanglement," he said. "Please tell me more about bhakti, O great sage." Verses 38 to 41, Narad said, "The essence of bhakti is to have faith in hearing about, glorifying and remembering Krishna. Anyone who eagerly and regularly engages in these three activities will very soon see Krishna face to face. You should seek their association. The ambrosial topics of Krishna flow from them like a river. Anyone who drinks this nectar will, with faith, will rise above the urges of the material mind and body, such as hunger, thirst, fear, lamentation, and illusion. These bodily demands will otherwise distract you, leaving you with very little time to cultivate an attraction for hearing Krishna's pleasing instructions." Prachin Bari said, "There are many famous and important devotees such as Brahma, Shiva, the four Kumars, and yourself among others. Should I hear from them as well as you?" So with this, we'll conclude our reading for today. We will continue with this chapter next time because it's a long chapter. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.